year since I last released some dope fly tying videos for you, and I know I shouldn't have left you without some strong flies to step to. Guess who's back up in this mother? What do you mean we're back? There's no we here. It's only me.
I'm the star of the show, you know.
No, I didn't even invite you. You strange little monkey face.
Look who's talking. Is that even a real beard?
What do you mean?
You look like a nutsack with no nuts in it.
Oh really? You really want to go there? Okay, let's just. But finally, I'm back again with, if I may say so myself, some really cool flies that I'm going to show you this spring. And we're going to start off with the bang. We're going to tie a pattern that's been very successful for me over the past 2 seasons. Yes, party people, it's the Kavorka. It was born in 2016 during our annual trip to Åland, where I have this tradition that I tie a new fly of some sort on Thursday night before we go out and fish on Friday. And this year we had been watching some old Seinfeld episodes on Thursday evening, so when it came to naming this fly, it was actually quite easy, because this really is the lure of the animal.
It's just that I have this power.
Yes, Kavorka.
Kavorka.
It is a Latvian word which means the lure of the animal.
I actually have the very first Kavorka. This is the fly that I tied on Åland that day, and it's been quite battered. I caught almost 20 pikes on it back then, and I retired it when I came home because it was so successful, and I really wanted to remember how I tied it. So this is the first. I've kept it. I've changed a few things since this first original fly. Back then on Åland, there's always been this thing with slightly smaller flies. They've actually worked better for me. So this one didn't use a wiggle tail. When I came home and tried to adapt it to my home waters, I added the wiggle tail quite quickly because it's been so successful tails flies for me over the past 3-4 seasons. Also, one thing that has changed is that for the original fly I used a different flash blend, more of the broader predator flash. I've actually switched to the thinner Flashabou and the polar flash for the pattern that we're going to tie today. I also used angel hair for the head of the original pattern. This has been switched to the fantastic predator dubbing from fly dressing.
I got the Kavorka. I got the Kavorka. I got the Kavorka.
The fly itself really is a take on the 2-hook articulated flies that are so popular among the streamer fishing trout fishermen. And with people like Andreas Andersson or Mike Schmidt or Rick Strolis, they really mastered this type of fly. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to tie something similar, but size it up slightly so it fitted more to my pike fishing. So this is you could probably remove the front hook for shank if you want to, and have the Fareoh hook in the back, because this features a 2.0 attitude streamer in the back. It's joined by a wire and some beads into the 4.0 attitude streamer in the front. The back section is quite sparsely tied. It's more or less meant to be a transition between the front, which is bulkier, and the wheel tail. The rear section is also very freely moving due to the joints. It fishes not with a sharp side-to-side movement. It fishes more smoothly, but has a really nice profile in the water. If you want to make it to be more jerkbait light, I would recommend you to switch the soft predator dubbing in head. Use ripple fiber or even angel hair to have a more bulkier head that pushes more water. I've come to find that brown or copper colored flies, like this original Kavorka, it works basically in every single water I've fished in, except maybe the most clear waters. But saying that, I can also tell you that I do tie the Kavorka in quite a lot of different other colors as well, like a green and gold, fire tiger version, or this that we call the covered. And this is actually something that I'm going to tie in the next video, which will be a spin-off of the Kavorka in the tie-off series. You might seen some of the old videos there. So this is what I'm going to put out for my next. This has been a really successful fly, probably not as successful as the copper fly, but almost, and especially in the clearer waters of the archipelago Stockholm, in the Stockholm area in the Baltic, where I fish. This has been truly good for me last season, and also the few times that I've been out this spring, it's been working really good. But you've been waiting so long, a year, to actually watch me tie some flies again. So I'm not going to wait any longer. I think let's just start the tying, and I hope you're gonna enjoy this. So let's start tying, shall we? This fly uses the proven setup of 2 hooks, with the smaller one at the back, and then they are joined by a wire and some beads to separate the 2 hooks. So we're going to start tying on the back hook, which is a Partridge Attitude Streamer 2.0. Just put some super glue on the shank here and tie in the thread. The back section is focused on being very light, with sparse material to act as a transition between the more bulkier front section and the wiggle tail. So we'll start with creating the wire lengthening for the wiggle tail. The length of this will also affect how long the material on the hook in front of it needs to be. I cut the titanium wire here at 11 centimeters, which I think makes for a good length, but feel free to experiment if you want a longer or shorter fly yourself. The wire are then threaded through a small snap and a bead to lock it down. You'll see in a bit how it looks once it's tied down on the hook. It's quite straightforward actually. Put the wire on the hook like this and tie it down. About a centimeter or so of the wire will overlap the hook shank. Now you can see how the whole setup looks. Once everything is tied in, you cover the whole thread base with super glue to secure it. As I mentioned in the intro, this fly fishes very well without the wiggle tail too, so if you want a smaller fly without a tail, you will simply skip this part. The base material for the back section is Steve Farrar blend in brown or bronze black color. So cut off a piece of DSF blend and always try use slightly less material than you think you're gonna need, because once you fold everything together, it's going to be way too bulky if you use too much material here. Also, to fit the length of the fly with the titanium wire, I tend to cut it down here by around 2 centimeters or so. Taper the ends of the material and then tie it in with the 60-40% spread on tip of the hook shank with a few hard turns of thread. Lift the back section up like this and place 3 tight turns of thread underneath it to lift it up slightly. Now fold the front section back and let it cover also the side of the shank. Resist the urge to tie the material down directly on itself here. Instead, just go through with the thread, and while holding the material down like this, tie a small cone of thread directly in front of it to lift the wing up like this. Now comb everything through to get a light and airy wing to the fly. We're gonna add a small blend of Flashabou over the SF blend here. It will consist of a base of copper colored polar flash. Into that I'm adding brown Flashabou that I cut down to the same length as the polar flash. And finally I'm adding a few strands of the lateral scale in pearl color. This is then mixed together in hand and taper the ends. Add the flash which projects over the SF blend with a couple of centimeters. Then tie in the flash a few millimeters in front of the SF blend and make sure you get it on top and sides of the shank. Oh, how smart of me here to move the vise away from the focus of the camera. I'm very sorry for that, but I think we're going to be able to see what I'm doing anyway. So fold the flash over and make sure it's also down to the side before you tie it in here like this. So here is a good view on how the back section looks now. Just comb everything through and finish the back hook here with a whip finish and some super glue. So to join the two hooks together, I'm using the Partridge Predator wire, which is a softer wire here. I'm cutting a piece that's again around 11 centimeters long. Then just thread it through the hook guy of the back hook here like this, and then put 3 plastic articulation beads on like this. Now we can remove the back hook and add the Attitude Streamer Fareoh hook that's going to be our main hook here. Tie in the thread at the back of the hook after securing it with some super glue. Now we're gonna add the back hook to the front hook. So measure it so the front bead are resting on the hook bend of the front hook like this, so that the wire is horizontal in line with the shank of the front hook, while still allowing an open loop to the back hook like this. Then you simply tie down the wire hard, about 2 centimeters towards the hook guide on top of the fold back each end of the wire and tie it down back again with several hard turns before you finish it all with super glue to secure it. The front hook will be tied with 2 sections of bucktail with materials on top. The back section will be over the transition between the 2 hooks and act as a body, and the front section will serve as the bulky head of the fly. So cut a piece of brown bucktail and rinse it free of the shorter hairs like you used to, and if you need, just tap the root ends of your palm to align the hairs. Then add it to the hook shank with the tips facing forward. Make sure it's evenly spread around the hook. Then add 2 loose wraps of thread like this, before tightening and securing it all with several hard turns of thread. Cut off the waist of the bucktail at the back here and add some super glue directly to the thread, and then secure it all with a few more wraps of thread to force the super glue into the tying point of the bucktail. So it's pretty straightforward from here. We fold the bucktail back, go through with the thread and build a nice, not too steep cone of thread in front of it to get the good looking color of bucktail here. On top of the bucktail we are again using the SF blend in brown or bronze black color. The SF blend will serve 3 purposes here. 1, it will add structure and color to the fly. 2, it will add cover to the joint wire between the hooks, and 3, it will add as a surface to rest the flash on to prevent it to fall down into the bucktail. So cut off a small amount of the SF blend and shorten it by a centimeter or 2, then taper the ends to it. Tie it down once again with the rough 60-40 spread and make sure it's completely around the hook shank before tying it down in front of the bucktail collar here. Secure it with several turns of thread before folding it back, and again make sure it is spread around the hook evenly, then tie it all down and secure once again with some super glue. We're gonna add a similar flash blend that we used for the back section here with 1 change. The base is still copper polar flash, and then I'm adding brown Flashabou once again, but I'll finish it all with some dark reed Flashabou instead of a thin lateral scale that we used at the back. Everything is cut into the same length and then mixed together like this. Now measure the flash to the hook shank so it doesn't project further than the flash at the back. Ideally it should be about an inch shorter really. And then spread it around the shank in front of the tie-in point of the SF blend and make sure once again that it's evenly spread around before you tie it down. Now fold the flash back and tie it down here with several hard turns of thread. Then mix it all by combing it through. Now you're finally beginning to see the color mixes come. Through very nicely here. To add some contrast and movement to the fly, I'm going to add a pair of saddle feathers on each side. I'm using one grizzly olive and one brown on each side that I paired together. These are tied in at top and slightly down on each side. It's like we used to call this the 2 and 10 o'clock position. Then cut off the waist of the feathers and secure with turtle wax. Just check it to see if you're still with me. Now we're closing into the final section of the fly, which is the head. So move the thread forward so that you have at least 1 centimeter left to the hook eye. With the space between the sections here will create a nice, sparse, translucent effect, so don't really care about that. Now cut off another section of brown bucktail that you prepare the usual way. So it's basically a repeat of the previous step. Tie in the bucktail evenly spread around the hook shank with the tips facing forward. Then cut down the waist and secure it before you fold and create another color here. We will also repeat the addition of the SF blend on top of the bucktail once again. Most important thing once again is to make sure it's evenly spread around the hook. I've said this so many times by now, so you should probably remember it. But also notice when you fold the SF blend back here and tie it in, you get this little hump facing the hook eye. This is actually quite important, and I'll get back to this later and how we're going to use this. Now to the thing that probably make this fly stand out a bit, the cheeks. I'm using yellow grizzly feathers here from a saltwater cape. You could basically use any feathers that you want that are around 8 to 9 centimeters long or so. But saltwater cape has this nice broad feathers that you can't really find on, for example, a saddle. So I'd recommend using a broader type of feather for maximum effect here. Use 2 feathers on each side. This is purely because the feathers are fragile, so if you lose one on any side, you'll still have a spare one underneath to keep the effect going. Strip away the lower fluff of the feathers so that you have around 6 to 7 centimeters or so of the feather left. The easiest way to tie this in are to put the bare feather stem on top of the hook and then angle the rest of the feather down so it's aligned with the side of the fly before you tie it in. It's not super important if it's not exactly horizontal here, because it will be more or less once it's in the water anyway. Now the feathers, and this is important, are tied down on the same place that you tie down the SF blend, so the hump is still intact that we discussed previously. Then add a second pair of feathers on the other side, tie everything down and cut the waist off and super glue. The head is going to be tied with using 2 different colors of the flight resin predator dubbing, probably my favorite material when it comes to creating head on pike flies. Originally I used angel hair for this, but the predator dubbing is much easier to work with and it looks great. Pull off a bunch of black predator dubbing fibers and measure it again around 60-40 on top of the hook. Tie it in with just 2 or 3 turns of thread for now, and make sure you tie this in between the hump of the SF blend, as we discussed earlier, and the hook eye. This will raise the head up nicely. Then separate an equally thick bunch of brown predator dubbing. Flip the vise over and tie it in 60-40 on the underside of the hook. Now make sure the black and brown meet on each side. Again, use 2 and 3 hard wraps of thread, and don't worry if there are wraps of thread that shines through between the black and brown. This will be covered when we add the eyes later. Then fold both bundles back and move the thread forward. Now as you tie a few turns in front of the head, you should pull the thread horizontally back in line with the hook to force the thread underneath the predator dubbing to further raise it up, and also to hide the thread. Finish the fly here and cut off the thread. Now blend everything together nicely with the comb. Last thing we're gonna add are a couple of 11mm epoxy eyes. Now clip the head together with the hair clip like this to align all the predator dubbing. Then add a drop of super glue gel on the eye and carefully place it on each side. But don't press the eyes together until you release the clip like this. To make sure the head keeps its shape, I'm adding a small amount of Gulp UV resin on top and bottom between the eyes here. Then just harden it by shining the UV lamp on. So that was the Kavorka, and as you see, the only thing left to do after you tie the fly is to actually add the tail. I really like fishing these copper tails. They are a little bit lighter than the fly itself. If you want to use a darker tail, I can recommend using the hollow black or the brown one. One thing that I've also tried late last season was actually tying it with the wave tail. It's actually a very cool tail, and it's one of the advantages is that it's also much lighter to cast. So this is a really good option. I'm very much looking forward to trying to fishing wave tails much more this season. So this has been the Kavorka, my first flying tying video in a year. And as I said, I can guarantee you it won't be another year, because we have so many cool videos coming up this spring. I also have a brand new series together with my partner in crime El Capitan that's going to be released this spring. I'm hoping you'll enjoy that. And as always, I hope you learned something today. I hope you liked the video. If you did, thumb it up, like it, don't forget to subscribe, tell your friends, tell your kids, tell your grandparents, tell your enemies, tell everyone, El Presidente is back. And until next time, do like the pike's tooth and stay sharp. Peace!